Hi, this is Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the President, Founder, and Chief Listening Officer here at our network at USA Global TV and Radio. Thank you so much for your loyalty. Thank you so much to all of our guests, to our team members, to our sponsors, and to all of our elevated listeners. Here at USA Global TV and Radio, we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. We celebrate all of our team members, all of our guests, and all of our sponsors from around the world who come and lead their lives with their hearts to help other people walk into their greatness. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and book your session. Please contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com and subscribe to our channel.
Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to United Kitchens as part of USA Global TV and Radio. And I am Ricki Mckenna. This is my kitchen. It is called Ricki's Kitchen as part of USA Global TV. And today we are going to do something a little ahead of time for Valentine's Day. And it is called, according to me, it is called Healthy's Roasted Beet Soup. It is an absolutely gorgeous, because of the color, of course, and the taste, soup that's a combination of, yes, beets, red beets, and a number of other things. And you can reach me at rickiskitchen.net, or you can reach me on Facebook at Ricki Mckenna, or actually it's on there as Ricki Mckenna Food for Thought, because that is my logo, part of my logo. I have whisks, and of course you can take whisks and get yourself a coffee cup from my website, rickiskitchen.net, as well as purchase my book, Yes, You Can Eat Well and Eat Right and Find the Joy of Cooking, and that is on Amazon. Or you can order directly from me at rickiskitchen.net. So with that, let's get started on our United Kitchens journey today. We're going to start with roasting the beets, which I have cut up ahead of time since they take about 20-25 minutes to roast. And they are just about ready, so I'll pull them out of the oven. Here we go. And let you have a look at them before we put them in a pot. And we take them and we caramelize them. So what I've done is taken about a pound of beets or beetroot, depending on where you are in the world. And we've put them into a little baking dish that I coated with some olive oil at first. So now I'm going to take them and put them in a pot. And we have the pot right here, to which I'm going to add some olive oil, just a little. Yep, that's olive oil. And so we'll take the roasted beets, it smells absolutely divine, and put them in our pot. There we go. I did cut them up into tiny bite-sized pieces because they cook faster that way. Put that out here. I'm going to turn my beets up to high because I want to caramelize them. And that means putting them in here and turning them up to high so that we can almost burn them, but not quite. We really don't burn them. But what I want to do first now with that is cut up my beet stems. Isn't this beautiful? Here's a new way to have a bouquet. You can have beautiful red beets. And by the way, just as a shopping tip, when you're looking for beets, make sure you find the beets with the stems and the beautiful leaves that are really fresh. If you find beets with wilted stems or brown leaves, please leave them there. Take them, and we're going to cut up a couple of the stems, about 3/4 of a cup of the beet stems that are thoroughly washed. And we're going to put them in a pot of about, a cup of water. And I'm not going to use all of these because we're going to take the rest of them and roast them. You can roast them just like you would fresh spinach or any other green like that, and you can make them crispy. There we go. I'm going to leave the beets and take the stems. There we go. And I'm going to put them in a little pot of water, about a cup of water, 3/4 to a cup of water. And I'll have about 3/4 of a cup of the stems. We're going to put them in a pot and turn that on now up to high so we can boil them. And our beets are beginning to sizzle. So I want to add some chopped celery. Let's get the rest of those little stems in there. And by the way, the beet stems contain a lot of wonderful minerals as well as vitamins and some special nutrients that are absolutely marvelous and nutritional. So we're going to take 2 stalks of celery and add that to the pot. And now I'm going to take a leek, and I'm going to do about a cup of the leek. And make sure, of course, that you clean your leeks very carefully to get all the dirt out from beneath inside the leaves. Even if they are organic and it's organic dirt, I don't particularly want to eat that or add that to my soup. We'll add the leeks to the beets and the celery. And I'm not going to put any liquid in yet, because you want to caramelize these wonderful vegetables so we bring out the sweetness. There we go. And to the leeks, I'm also working pretty quickly here. I'm also going to add about, I added about a cup of the leeks. I'm going to add about another cup of this lovely yellow onion. If I can get the skin off. There we go. Just chopped up roughly because eventually we'll blend all this. So I'm just chopping it up roughly. And I like to put a little bit more. We've got about half a cup here. Okay, and let me get you over here so you can see what's going on in the pot. Technicalities here. Let's see what we have. No, that's not what I want. Well, just a moment. There we go. Here we are. All right, so you can see it. I'm sure you can hear it. It's making lots of noise. And we're going to caramelize our veggies. So I'll mix them around in the pot so that everything gets a chance to hit the bottom of the pot. And we want to do this so that, as I said, we almost burn, but not quite, the veggies that are in there. I have to tell you, the aroma is absolutely marvelous. Okay. And just let that sit there. I'm going to turn it down to medium high. In the meantime, we have our little beet stems that are boiling here. Okay. There we go. And so, we're going to add a little bit of spice to the whole thing. Let's get back here. Here we are. Then I'm going to add in a bay leaf eventually when I put the liquid in, which I will mix now I'm using about 3 teaspoons or a tablespoonful of chicken base. Now, if you want to keep this as a vegan soup, which is very easy to do, all we need to do is use a veggie broth or mushroom broth rather than chicken broth. So we happen to like it with chicken broth. So I'm mixing up 2 cups in here with 3 teaspoons of the chicken base or your veggie base, whichever you like. And I'm mixing it in a boiling water. And if you remember, I said before that when you add water to a pot like this, especially when you're making a soup or a stew, but especially a soup, to continue the cooking process, boil your water in a pot beforehand. That's why my kettle is always in use. So I'm going to check my veggies and see how we caramelize. Let's go over there one more time. And I'll explain what we're doing here. Perfect. All right, and now we'll add the chicken broth very carefully so you don't burn yourself. And you can see it boiling. I'm sure you can hear it as well. There we go. And we have a beautiful red broth going in there, to which we'll add a little bit of spice. First off, we're going to add a little salt, not a lot because the veggies and the beets themselves are salty. So I don't want to add too much salt. It's about half a teaspoon of the sea salt. And let that mix. I'm also going to add some allspice. And I'm using approximately a half teaspoon. But as I've said before, if you like allspice, add some more. So there's my allspice. And then we're going to add, you can use fresh ginger if you so choose. In the soup in particular right now, I'm just going to use the powdered ginger. Actually, I'm going to add a teeny bit more than that because we happen to like ginger. And also, so we have salt, allspice, and some white pepper. Here's my little white pepper jar. And I'm going to take that and add again about the quarter teaspoon of the white pepper and a couple of bay leaves. Actually, one nice large bay leaf. And mix all that. And you can see it's simmering beautifully. Oh gosh, the smell is just delicious. Or be-licious with the beets. Now, of course, to make the soup a little bit more soupy, we're going to add a little bit more water. And again, I'm going to add my boiled water. So we'll have the kettle. Ta-dum, kettle. And I'm adding about 1.5 cups more of the boiled water. And then, if you remember those beet stems, they have been simmering over here. Here we go. And I'm going to let them cook just a little bit more, and they are in about 1 cup of water. So that when we add that, that will also add to the soup, which eventually we are going to blend. But in the meantime, another wonderful spice that I'm going to add, or herb, is some thyme, organic thyme. Now you can use a sprig of fresh thyme, which you will eventually take out or open up and blend. And I do have some fresh thyme that I'll show you we can use for a garnish as well. And actually I've used close to a really full teaspoon of the thyme. That's the dried thyme, particularly because it's one of my favorite herbs. Give it a good mix. Okay. Now I'm going to let my beet stems simmer a little bit more while the soup simmers, and just give you a little more. Ooh, there we go. Ta-da. Okay, we're going to just clean up a little because I like cleaning up while I'm working. It just makes cleanup at the end so much easier if you do it a little bit at a time while you're working. And possibly add a little bit more salt. I think I will, because now remember the base has salt, but even though I do use, excuse me, the low salt base, but I want to get everything in there and just give it a teeny bit more of the salt. The beets, of course, have their own sodium chloride, and so does celery. So you can also use something like, if you have, other than red beets, if you have some Swiss chard, or even some, well, the Swiss chard is marvelous. You can take the chard stems. Now remember, we're going to use the whole foods because I really have an objection to waste. So we use just about everything when we have the beets. Of course, the beet root is the first thing that goes in, along with the onion and the leek. And then what I'm going to do now is show you what you do with the rest of these beautiful leaves. Please don't throw them out unless you're having a problem with something called oxalates, which beets are very full of oxalates. And sometimes people have some problems with that. But what I'm going to do with the rest of this is chop up the beet stems for use in future soups, and I'm going to freeze them. So I'll take these. I'm going to take the leaves, though, and we're going to roast them so that we have some, sure you've heard of kale chips? Well, we're going to make beet green chips. If that sounds a little strange, try it. They're really rather tasty. And if they don't come out crispy, what you can do with them is just serve them up like you would spinach, sauteed spinach, because you can certainly saute the beet greens, the leaves, same as you would spinach. And it's just a different, perhaps a little more bitter, but not terribly bitter, vegetable to use. Okay, we're getting a pile of wonderful beet stems here, which I can use in future soups or stews. They're always good to add a little flavor, and also they will add some color. And just another thing I found when I'm cutting my beets on my wooden top, I usually put them on a piece of paper towel before I start cutting them so that I avoid actually staining my whole top red. It will clean up, but I don't like to have to scrub it. So it makes the cleanup much easier if you put a piece of paper towel down first before you start chopping. And I guess for eons, people have used beets as natural coloring to color textiles and other things. And I think they're still used in some countries to color textiles, as are some other fruits and vegetables. So I'm going to take my little pile of beet stems and put them in a dish. And eventually they will go into the freezer in a container that's sealed. So I have them for future cooking. There. That's like doing the zesting an orange or zesting a lemon and putting it in a little tiny container that's very well sealed in your freezer so that you have the orange or lemon zest all ready for you. Now, what I'm going to add to the soup, and this is sounds a little weird, but I'm going to add some butter because everything tastes better with butter. And so I'm going to cook my soup with a couple more tablespoons of butter. You can use salted butter, or I prefer unsalted butter because we've already added some salt. And as I say, the greens and the vegetables have their own salt content. So here we go. I'm going to mix in the butter as much for flavor and taste, really. The butter with the beets, I'm sure if you've made beets traditionally before, you've put butter on them. But this soup, because of the combination of the leeks, the onions, and the celery, in addition to the beets, will look very much like beet soup. But the taste is completely different, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. What I'm going to do now is take that cup of water, or whatever's left at this point after it's boiled down a little bit, with my beet stems and add them to the soup with the water. And I think I'm going to add just a teeny bit more of that hot water. Maybe just about half a cup. Because I'm going to cook it uncovered so that it reduces a little bit. So all the flavors of the vegetables will concentrate. And the herbs, let's see. Now, remember that baking dish that we had the beets in? Well, now I'm going to take it, and it has a residue of the beets in the bottom, which is fine. I think you can see it there. You can see the color. I'm going to take a little bit of butter. And it's still warm enough to melt the butter, so I'm going to put that in the bottom and just spread that all around, right on top of the beef residue. And this is where we will put our beet greens. To set them in the oven. This is like a little bonus besides the soup. So we'll let that, it will melt eventually, especially when you put it in the oven. And I'm going to chop the beet greens up roughly. Just chop them up a little bit. And layer them in this pan. Well, so that's a big one. We'll just rip that one up. Okay. And I'm going to sprinkle them with a little bit of garlic. Just a wee bit. Actually, I'm going to take some olive oil spray and turn my soup down to simmer. And let that go for a couple more minutes. We only need about 15 minutes for it, really. Okay, so we've got our olive oil, a little bit of garlic, and then we'll add another layer of beet greens. And if you have spinach or maybe arugula or rocket, you can do the same thing with it. You just layer the leaves in. Spray with a little bit of olive oil. Here we go. Just a touch. You don't want it all over the place. And just a little sprinkle of garlic. And this is granulated garlic. I don't care for garlic powder. It's way too little and it gets all over the place. So I find your granulated garlic is a lot more efficient to use and it tastes better. So, all right, and we'll take, it's still a little warm. I'm going to put it back in the oven. And since my oven has been cooling down, I'm going to turn it back up to 350, about 350, 375. I'm not sure what that equates to in the metric system, but I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out. So we have our beet greens in there, and we have our soup here that's almost ready to blend, the final part of it. We're going to let it cook just a little bit more, and I'll give you a preview of how pretty this is when it's finished. Look at that color. You can't beat that, pun intended. And this is the advantage of this soup, is also that you can take it and serve it, of course, with a beautiful piece of Lebanese bread and some fresh butter. And you can eat it hot, or you can serve it cold. It works both ways. The other alternative that you can do is when you're serving it, or just before you take it off the heat, you can mix in some fresh parsley, chopped up parsley, and you can also sprinkle some chopped up parsley on it as you serve it. So there we have it. That's the finished product. And we're going to take our soup, now that it's been on there for, say about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. What a wonderful combination. I'm going to take a little taste of it and see if I need to adjust the seasoning any, because I've already added the spices and herbs that I wanted, but I might want to change them a little bit. So we'll give it a little taste before I blend it, and it will taste a little bit different once you blend it. It is boiling. Oh, yum. Now, here's where you can say, well, I'd like a little bit more allspice, or I'd like a little more pepper or ginger, whatever. The ginger flavor is coming through. I'm going to add just a teeny bit more of it and a little bit more of thyme that I really do love. So we'll just grab the thyme and put in about another, maybe half a teaspoon, because once it's blended, it will work. Here we go. And I'm going to add a little bit more ginger. I'm going to use the sprinkle top. Now, yesterday, I made this on a different show, and someone asked me about using fresh ginger rather than the dried. Well, that's perfectly fine, except for one little thing. Unless you cut it up very, very small into tiny, tiny pieces before you put it in, sometimes the ginger will get caught in your blender and you'll have strings from the ginger in your soup. So I prefer to use the ground ginger for doing that, for use in my soups. Because if I were not going to blend it, that would be different. But I think the blender, I've had the ginger get caught, and I'm sure if you have experienced this in a regular blender or in the immersion blender, which is what I'll be using, the ginger can come out and be stringy and get caught in your teeth, for one thing, if you're eating it, but also in your blender. So we're using just the ground spices right now. If you do have some fresh thyme, which I do have a lovely little plant of fresh lemon thyme, I'm going to take a little bit of that off and put it in my soup, because that will get blended completely. And then if you have enough of it, you can always use it as a garnish instead of, or in addition to, the parsley. So we'll put a little of that over there and mix it in for a couple of minutes. So do we have any comments, Dr. Jacqueline? I hope we have some viewers today and some listeners. For those of you who are listening, everything is working beautifully here. I'll show this for the people who are watching on Global TV. I'll let you see how the soup is blending beautifully. It's such pretty color. Here we go. And I'd like to introduce you to my little friend, Its name is Aqua. You're going to love this. This is where having fun in the kitchen. Whoops, that'd be wrong screen. Just a moment, please. All right, I have now been undercover. Oh dear. Technicalities. There we go. Hello. I'd like you to meet my friend Aqua. She's a little crab who holds some spoons. And if you're lucky enough to have a pot with a rim that is straight up and down, Aqua will sit on your pot or pan and hold your spoon so you don't lose it on the side or in the soup. So we'll just leave her there. And what I'd like to do now, we're going to take our soup off of the heat and blend it. I'm going to blend it over there. And when you're using an immersion blender, you can certainly ladle this into a regular blender and blend it in batches. But I'm going to use my immersion blender, which was a wonderful gift that I received. And we're going to make this into a beautiful blended roasted beet soup. But first I'm going to remove my bay leaf. And I accidentally left a bay leaf in one time. And somehow or other, it just doesn't blend as well as any other leaves that you put in as far as herbs go. So make sure you remove the bay leaf. One way to do that, and to put, if you're using multiple bay leaves or some herbs that are on stems and you want to use the whole sprig, put them inside a tea ball, a large screen tea ball, and immerse that in the soup, and it will work just as beautifully. And when you're ready to remove them, all you do is take your tea ball out and you've got your herbs and you can toss them. So let's get our blender ready. It helps if you use the right side. As I said, this is a new gift that I received. And it's not like my old one, so it's it's a little better. I know this works. There we go. Okay. Now, okay, we're going to make a little bit of noise, so here we go. Now, I want to caution you when you're using a blender like this, and maybe I should bring it up closer to the other camera, although we can plug it in here. Wait a minute. And let's take that camera over there so you can see exactly what's going on. And I want to show you something to be careful of when you're using an immersion blender. When you first put it in, this is not the way to do it. What you want to do is put it straight down and in the soup or whatever you're blending, and make sure that you keep it that way. Because if not, you will have red walls or whatever color that you're using in your soup. And pick it up and move it around. And make sure you let go of the mechanism before you pick it up, because I've had experiences where it's funny. It's funny, but not when you have to clean it up. So be careful, especially with a hot soup. And circulate it. You notice if I'm picking it up, I do let go. I do believe we've got it. Just be really, really careful with that blender so that you don't get it all over the place. And even though I was very careful, I've got some spots on the wall that I could see. And so I'm going to take my soup. Just let's get back here. And we're going to take the soup. And actually, I'd like to use a different bowl. I'm going to get another glass bowl, which is really pretty, and put it in there so you can see it. This is cold. This is the soup that I made yesterday. And we're going to take today's and bring it over. And we're going to put some, I've still got some chunky pieces in there, but that's okay. Now, the way I like to serve it, I usually do either a garnish with the parsley, or it looks wonderful. You can make it really pretty and creative with some sour cream or some yogurt, some plain yogurt. So we'll take some plain yogurt and do a little garnish there. And also something like either pine nuts or some roasted sunflower seeds. Anything like that will make a beautiful garnish. So this one's cold, this one's hot. And we'll take, I'm going to get a little small spoon. And take some yogurt. And if you're using non-dairy yogurt, this will work just as well. And you can use a dollop of it, or you can spread it out, dot it, and it will swirl beautifully. Haha, it said. Okay, we'll just put it on top then and make it look pretty, but it also adds to the taste. So there we go. And I can put some in my cold soup as well. If you're a little more adventuresome, you can make it swirl. But here we have, again, the hot, same beautiful, absolutely gorgeous beet color. And we have the cold. So this is your alternative ways to serve it. And I'm going to give it a taste with my soup spoon. And yesterday, I'll be honest, I had a little more, I did put the parsley into the soup. And just as a hint, if you're using parsley or something like that, parsley or cilantro when you're adding to something, if you want to really taste it, put it in about 5 minutes or less before you're about to blend it, as we did, or before you're about to serve it. And the same thing goes with garlic. If you want to taste more of something like garlic or parsley or a little additive like that, put it in just a couple of minutes before you're about to serve it or before it's completed. Now you notice we did not put garlic in here because I call this my lover's soup. So unless your lover really loves garlic, you can leave it out and you still get an absolutely marvelous flavor soup. Oh my. I don't know if you're just a lover or a soup lover, but this is really amazing. Now I'm going to taste the cold one and see the difference. I almost like the cold soup better than the hot soup, but you do have alternatives. So remember, we use leeks, onions, celery. I used olive oil and butter. And if you wish, you can add some more butter at the very end or even put some on top if it's hot and let it melt and blend into the top of the soup. The buttery flavor, especially for people who are not used to eating beets or beetroot or who say they don't like it. I have had many, many people try this soup who said, well, I really don't like beets. And they absolutely love it because of the incredible blending of the leeks, the onion, the celery, and the beets together. So there we have it. I think we're a little bit early, but if we have any comments or questions, I'm happy to answer. Let's see what we can do here. There we go. Right. So, as I said, here we have both the cold and the hot, and I've served this with a wonderful piece of Lebanese bread, which you can, pardon me, but dunk into it or just put some butter on it. And the butter and the combination of the soup and the butter is an absolutely delicious taste. So I invite you to try that. With or without the yogurt, I'm going to dunk. And so, oh, yummy. And you can make this ahead of time, and if you wish, it will stay in your refrigerator for 3 to 4 days. Or if you do, and you make it and you're not going to eat it for a while, or just want to make it ahead of time for a couple of weeks, it will freeze beautifully. And again, when you freeze it, if you have it in a glass jar, which I prefer as far as storing things, leave yourself room on top. Leave at least an inch from the top or a couple of centimeters from the top before you put the top on tightly. Put it on loosely, put it in your freezer, and wait about an hour or two because it will expand. So you don't, the reason you leave it with about an inch or 2 centimeters from the top is because of the expansion. If your top is on tightly at first, it can crack the jar. So that's just another little handy kitchen hint. And so, just a little bit about my book. Yes, you can eat well and eat right. And you can reach me on Facebook. You'll see the book on there, or on LinkedIn at Ricki's Kitchen Food for Thought. Or it's on Amazon. It's Yes, You Can Eat Well and Eat Right. And it's a fun read because it's not just a cookbook. It has lots of goodies in there as far as food history. There's a little something in there for your children or grandchildren as far as making food animals, decorating your table with food animals that are edible. And a bunch of other good things, some charts and indications of how to cook things. And I hope you enjoy it. So with that, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining us in the United Kitchens. This is Ricki Mckenna in United Kitchens and part of USA Global TV and Radio. Have a marvelous weekend and hearty appetite. Thank you for being here. Come back.